The Galactic Council had long believed Earth was nothing more than a forgotten relic in the galaxy's history. Over 500,000 years ago, they had wiped it out in a ruthless, overwhelming strike, believing humanity to be a threat too dangerous to exist. It was a victory that ensured the dominance of the Council's many alien races. The Earth was nothing more than a dead world, its memory erased from galactic records. The Council's leaders, sitting in their majestic meeting hall, couldn't have been further from the truth. As the Council's elite discussed the dead Earth and its ancient species, one of their commanders, a cold-hearted alien named Xyler, sneered as he read reports of Earth's complete annihilation. "Let us never forget what happened there," he said. "We showed them that no species is above the Council. They dared to rise up, but in the end, Earth was destroyed, gone, forever." The room filled with murmurs of agreement, and laughter echoed from the high-ranking officers. The destruction of Earth had become a symbol of the Council's power, a lesson to any species who dared challenge them. Their victory seemed complete. The Earth and its people, nothing but a memory. Then suddenly, the mood shifted. An alarm sounded, loud and sudden, slicing through the satisfaction that had filled the room. The lights flickered, and the hum of the Council chamber's technology went silent for a brief moment. The leaders froze, their faces turning pale as the screens before them lit up. On each screen, a series of coded signals appeared. The system's AI analyzed it in an instant. Signal detected, originating from the dead zone. The dead zone was what the Council had once called Earth's location, now a barren, empty patch of space. There should have been nothing there, nothing but remnants of what had been a thriving world. Earth's destruction had been thorough, leaving only scorched remains. "Impossible," one of the higher-ranking leaders, Commander Tressa, whispered. "How can this be? Earth was destroyed centuries ago." Xyler's voice cut through the silence, his usual arrogance replaced by a rare sense of unease. "That signal," he muttered, his fingers tapping the console nervously. "It matches the human signal pattern." A tense silence followed as the implications of this discovery set in. The humans had been wiped out. There was no doubt about that. The Council had seen to it personally. But now, a signal from the very location they had eradicated. How could that be? The possibilities were terrifying. Had some humans survived the destruction? Were they now returning for vengeance? The Council members quickly went into full alert, arguing amongst themselves. Was it a trap? Was this some kind of alien trick to lure them into an ambush? Or had the humans somehow returned from the ashes of their dead world? The debate raged on, but one thing was certain: something had stirred in the dead zone. Meanwhile, hidden in the farthest corner of the galaxy, far from the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council, a ship known as the Silent Fury moved silently through an asteroid field. The ship, cloaked and nearly invisible to the naked eye, was a marvel of human engineering, an advanced warship built to survive where others would fail. Its sleek, dark exterior blended seamlessly with the void of space, a shadow amidst the stars. Inside the Silent Fury, the crew was preparing. The crew wasn't composed of ordinary soldiers. They were the descendants of the humans who had survived Earth's destruction. They had spent centuries hidden away, hiding in plain sight, carefully biding their time. The Silent Fury had been designed for this moment, the moment humanity would return. At the helm of the ship stood Captain Leon Draven, a tall, commanding figure whose piercing eyes held the weight of decades of planning. He was a man whose past had been marked by loss, sacrifice, and a relentless drive to reclaim what was lost. For years, he had overseen the rebuilding of humanity, watching as his people turned their grief into strength. Now, the time had come to act. Draven stood before the bridge's central holographic display, his fingers hovering over a map of the galaxy. "This is it," he muttered to himself, his voice a low growl. "The Council thinks we're gone, but we're not. We've been watching them for centuries, and now it's time to remind them of who we are." A few members of his crew, all clad in black tactical uniforms, gathered around him. Their faces were stoic, but there was a sense of anticipation in the air. These humans weren't just survivors. They were warriors, engineers, and tacticians, trained for this very mission. They had developed technology far beyond what the Council could imagine. Technologies like cloaking devices, bio-enhanced soldiers, and AI systems that worked in harmony with human minds. They were humanity's last hope and its most powerful weapon. "Captain, the signal. It's coming from the dead zone. Earth's location," said Lieutenant Selena, a communications officer, her voice tight with both awe and fear. "We've intercepted it. The Council doesn't know it yet, but we do. Earth's legacy is not over." Draven turned to her, his expression hardening. "It's a message, a challenge. The Council believes they destroyed us, but they couldn't have been more wrong. We're coming for them. We're going to remind them what happens when they try to erase humanity." The crew gathered around as Draven activated the warship's main console. The plan had been set into motion. Years of preparation, countless sacrifices, and relentless training were all leading up to this one moment. "Prepare the fleet," Draven ordered, his voice filled with authority. "Activate the cloaking device. Set course for the Galactic Council's central hub. It's time for them to learn what happens when they destroy Earth." As the crew sprang into action, Draven took a moment to reflect on the past. He thought of the Earth he once knew, the world that had been beautiful, full of life and promise. He thought of the family he had lost, of the countless innocents who had perished in the Council's attack. For centuries, he had vowed to never forget. Now, he would see that promise fulfilled. The Silent Fury's engines hummed softly as the ship powered up. Its sleek design and advanced technology made it nearly impossible to detect, even by the most advanced scanners. The humans had come a long way since the fall of Earth, and their strength was no longer to be underestimated. As the Silent Fury disappeared into the depths of space, the crew knew what was at stake. This mission wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming their future. Earth would be rebuilt, and the galaxy would learn a valuable lesson. Humanity wasn't finished. It would rise again, stronger than ever. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming for them. They had long believed that the humans were nothing more than a forgotten chapter in history. They were wrong. The signal from the dead zone was just the beginning. The Silent Fury was on its way, and with it, humanity's vengeance. The suspense was building, and the fate of the galaxy was about to change forever. What would happen when the Galactic Council's most powerful leaders came face to face with the very species they had wiped out so long ago? The countdown had begun. The Silent Fury drifted silently through the asteroid field, its cloaking technology rendering it nearly invisible to the eye. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense, charged with the weight of history. Captain Leon Draven stood at the helm, staring out into the dark expanse of space, his mind racing through the events that led to this moment. This wasn't just a mission for revenge. This was about survival, about reclaiming what was lost, and about ensuring that humanity's legacy would not be erased by the Galactic Council. The story of how humanity survived the brutal attack by the Galactic Council was a tale of ingenuity, perseverance, and sacrifice. It began 500,000 years ago, when the Council, a powerful alliance of alien species, decided that Earth and its inhabitants were too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The humans had once been a thriving species, full of promise and potential, but their advances in technology, combined with their fierce nature, made them a threat in the eyes of the Council. The attack was swift and devastating. Massive fleets of warships, commanded by the Council's most powerful leaders, descended upon Earth with a single purpose: total annihilation. No stone was left unturned, no refuge untouched. The oceans boiled, cities crumbled, and the skies were scorched by orbital bombardments. Within hours, humanity's once great civilization was reduced to ashes. But there was one thing the Council hadn't counted on: the resilience of the human spirit. A small group of humans, including scientists, engineers, and military leaders, had prepared for this day. They knew that the Council would eventually target them. In secret, they had developed experimental starships, designed to withstand the most extreme conditions and hidden away in remote corners of the galaxy. As the Council's warships tore through the Earth's atmosphere, these humans escaped, carrying with them the last hope of their species. The survivors didn't just run. They adapted. They went into hiding across multiple star systems, blending in with the cosmic backdrop, making themselves nearly invisible to the Council's prying eyes. They evolved in isolation, using the time they had to advance their technology even further. They developed cutting-edge AI, perfected cybernetic enhancements, and learned to manipulate energy in ways the Council could never have imagined. The humans, once seen as primitive by the Galactic Council, had become an unstoppable force, hidden in plain sight. Generations passed, and humanity's descendants grew stronger. They were warriors, scientists, engineers, every one of them trained from birth to reclaim their home. They were taught the history of their people, the tale of Earth's destruction, and the promise that one day they would return and take back what was theirs. The technology they had developed was more advanced than anything the Galactic Council possessed, and their warriors were trained in combat that combined both human ingenuity and the raw power of cutting-edge technology. Captain Leon Draven, standing on the bridge of the Silent Fury, was the product of this training. His father, a scientist who had been part of the original group of survivors, had taught him everything he knew about their people's history and their technologies. Draven had inherited not just his father's knowledge, but his burning desire for revenge. He had lived his entire life preparing for this moment. The time for hiding was over. He turned to face his crew, a group of the finest warriors and engineers humanity had to offer. The ship's interior was dimly lit, the glow of holographic screens casting an eerie light on their faces. The crew members stood at their stations, their expressions serious and focused. They knew what was at stake. "We're not just fighting for revenge," Captain Draven said, his voice low but filled with conviction. "We're fighting for our future." His words were met with silent nods of agreement. Every member of the crew understood the gravity of their mission. It wasn't just about showing the Council that humanity was alive. It was about sending a message that humanity was strong, that they had survived against all odds, and that the time for the Council's tyranny was coming to an end. Draven paced back and forth as he continued, his mind racing through the decisions that had led them here. "We've spent centuries in hiding, developing our technology, our strategies. Now, the time has come to strike. The Council thinks we're gone, that we've been forgotten. Let's show them how wrong they are." He turned to face the main console, where Lieutenant Selena, the ship's communications officer, had been monitoring the signal from the dead zone, the place where Earth once was. Her fingers flew over the holographic keyboard, pulling up data on the signal. "Captain, the signal's origin is unmistakable. It's human." Draven's eyes narrowed. "It's time. Let's send the Council a message. Prepare to broadcast. We're going to remind them who they're dealing with." He turned to the rest of the crew, their faces illuminated by the glow of the consoles. "Activate the cloaking device. Set course for the Galactic Council's central hub. We'll be there within the hour." As the crew moved into action, Draven felt the weight of their mission pressing down on him. He knew the risks. The Galactic Council had superior numbers, advanced weapons, and vast resources. But what they didn't have was the will to survive, the raw determination that humanity possessed. Draven knew that his people had been underestimated for too long. The Council thought they had wiped out Earth, but they were wrong. The Silent Fury's engines hummed to life, the ship's stealth capabilities making it invisible to the prying eyes of the galaxy. The cloaking device activated, and the ship disappeared into the darkness, heading straight for the heart of the Council's power. As the ship sped through space, Draven took a moment to reflect. He thought about his ancestors, the survivors who had managed to escape the Council's onslaught. They had given everything to ensure humanity's survival, and now he would do the same. He would bring their legacy back to life. In the quiet of space, as the stars passed by in streaks of light, Draven's mind turned to the future. The silent fury was only the beginning. Humanity would take back their home. The Earth, which had once been a symbol of loss and despair, would rise again. And when it did, the Galactic Council would know the true meaning of strength. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for identity, for justice, and for the future of all humanity. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The Silent Fury and its crew would not rest until Earth was reclaimed. As the ship neared its destination, Draven's resolve hardened. The time for waiting, hiding, and planning was over. The humans had returned, and they were ready to take back what was rightfully theirs. They would bring their message to the Council, and they would not stop until Earth was free again. The fate of the galaxy was about to change forever. The Silent Fury cut through the blackness of space like a predator in the night, its cloaking device making it almost invisible to the massive, deadly sensors of the Galactic Council's outposts. Captain Leon Draven stood at the helm, his eyes locked on the holographic display in front of him. The target was within sight. A heavily fortified Council outpost located on the barren moon of a gas giant. The outpost was one of the most strategically important bases in the Council's supply chain. If the humans could take it down, it would send a powerful message to the Council. Humanity was back, and they were not to be underestimated. The Silent Fury's crew, battle-hardened and resolute, was ready. Every inch of the ship hummed with anticipation as the final preparations were made. Draven's voice was calm, but the intensity behind it was clear. "This is it," he said to his crew. "We strike now." The orders were given, and the crew moved quickly into action. Lieutenant Selena activated the cloaking device and set the ship on course for the outpost. It wasn't long before they arrived, their ship completely undetectable. The outpost, oblivious to the incoming threat, was unaware that their destruction was only moments away. At that moment, the Silent Fury emerged from its cloak, revealing its dark silhouette against the cold emptiness of space. With a calculated precision, Draven ordered the first strike. The ship's advanced weaponry, hidden and powerful, fired without warning, sending devastating blasts of energy straight toward the Council's fortress. The first explosion rocked the moon, sending shockwaves through the barren landscape. The Silent Fury's orbital bombardment had begun. The sky above the outpost erupted in flames as alien warships, caught off guard, were torn apart in an instant. The shockwaves from the blasts distorted the very fabric of space, creating a spectacle of destruction that was as beautiful as it was terrifying. Draven watched as the battle unfolded. His eyes narrowed in concentration as he observed the destruction. The outpost's defense systems scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had struck too quickly and too hard. On the ground, Bonner, one of the key soldiers of the Silent Fury, led a squad of elite troops down to the surface of the moon. Bonner was a seasoned warrior, his years of combat experience making him the perfect choice for this high-risk mission. He had seen too much, lost too many comrades, but now he was ready to do whatever it took to complete the mission. The soldiers moved swiftly through the crumbling corridors of the alien fortress. Their cloaking technology kept them hidden from the Council's sensors, but time was running out. The countdown to the next phase of the attack had already begun. The humans had to disable the base's main reactor before the entire facility became a death trap. As Bonner and his team advanced through the base, they encountered resistance. Council soldiers, alien forces trained for the most brutal of wars, came at them in waves. But the humans were faster, more agile, and better equipped. The battle raged on, close-quarters combat erupting in hallways, explosions shaking the very ground beneath them. Then, just as they reached the reactor chamber, disaster struck. A Council warlord, a massive alien warrior known for his strength and brutality, ambushed Bonner's team. The two forces collided in a fury of combat, weapons clashing, sparks flying. Bonner fought with every ounce of strength he had, but the alien was relentless. It was clear that if he didn't act fast, the mission would fail. In a final, desperate move, Bonner grabbed an energy charge and sprinted toward the reactor core. His comrades tried to stop him, but Bonner knew what had to be done. With a shout of defiance, he planted the charge in the heart of the reactor. As Bonner activated the device, he looked back at his team, a sad smile on his face. "Tell them we did it," he said, his voice full of determination. Then, with a final glance at the devastation he had caused, he sprinted away from the reactor, just as the charge exploded in a flash of light. The resulting explosion was cataclysmic. The entire outpost was ripped apart, a massive ball of fire and energy consuming everything in its path. Bonner's sacrifice ensured that the mission had been a success, but it had come at a terrible price. Back aboard the Silent Fury, the crew was in shock. They had heard the explosion, felt the reverberations throughout the ship. Draven's face was a mask of grief, but there was no time for mourning. He knew that Bonner's death had not been in vain. The mission had been a success, and now it was time to send the Council a message they would never forget. Lieutenant Selena composed herself quickly and sent a cryptic transmission to the Galactic Council. Her fingers danced over the holographic console, encoding the message. "The ghosts of Earth are coming for you," she sent, her voice steady despite the pain she felt for their fallen comrade. Draven stood, his heart heavy, but his resolve stronger than ever. "The first strike is over. We've sent a message. Now we wait for their response." As the Silent Fury drifted away from the wreckage of the outpost, the crew was quiet. Bonner's sacrifice had bonded them in a way that words couldn't describe. His death had been a grim reminder of the stakes they were facing, a reminder that victory would come at a great cost. The destruction they had wrought was just the beginning. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with, and as the Silent Fury sped through space toward its next target, Draven knew that the battle for humanity's future had only just begun. The Galactic Council would never see them coming, but they would know them when they arrived. The ghosts of Earth were coming, and they weren't going to stop until they had reclaimed what was theirs. The tension in space was palpable as the humans braced themselves for the Galactic Council's retaliation. The Silent Fury and its fleet of hidden ships were on high alert, their cloaking devices shimmering in the blackness of space. The crew knew that this was no longer just a fight for revenge. It was a fight for survival. Captain Leon Draven stood in the command center of the Silent Fury, his eyes focused on the holographic map before him. The Galactic Council had responded quickly, too quickly. The Council's response was swift and brutal. Their fleets, massive and overwhelming, were already making their way toward the human fleet's position. Draven's heart raced as the cold, metallic voice of the ship's eye echoed through the command room. "The Galactic Council has launched a full-scale counterattack. Enemy forces are approaching from all directions." Draven clenched his fists, his face set in a determined scowl. "We knew this would happen," he muttered. "Prepare for battle. We won't go down without a fight." The humans had planned for this moment. For years, they had trained in secrecy, developing new weapons, advanced cloaking devices, and AI systems that could rival the Council's. They had built their fleet with precision, each ship equipped with the latest technology to give them an edge. But even with all their preparation, facing the full might of the Galactic Council was a daunting prospect. The odds were stacked against them. But the humans had one thing the Council didn't: the will to survive. As the first wave of enemy ships entered the human fleet's range, the battle erupted in a violent explosion of color and destruction. The darkness of space was lit up by the fiery glow of distant explosions as the two fleets collided. Council warships, massive and imposing, unleashed a barrage of laser fire, ripping through the void and tearing apart any ship unlucky enough to be in their path. But the humans weren't just sitting targets. They had the advantage of stealth, their cloaking devices making them nearly invisible to the enemy sensors. The Silent Fury and its fleet of ships moved like ghosts, darting in and out of the shadows, launching surprise attacks on the larger Council ships. The human ships fired with precision, taking down smaller Council vessels in a single strike. But the real battle was ahead. The Council flagship, the Aurora Titan, a massive warship capable of destroying entire planets, was coming into range. This was the ship they needed to defeat to stand any chance of winning the war. Draven gave the order. Lock on to the Aurora Titan. Prepare for a full-scale attack. The Silent Fury and its fleet broke from the shadows, heading straight toward the flagship. The Council ship's defenses lit up as it responded to the human threat, launching a massive wave of countermeasures. But the humans were prepared. Using their superior cloaking technology, they outmaneuvered the enemy, slipping past their defenses and attacking from unexpected angles. Draven's heart pounded as he watched the Aurora Titan grow larger in the viewfinder. This would be the ultimate test. He had faced challenges before, but nothing like this. The fate of humanity rested on the success of this mission. The Silent Fury and the Aurora Titan met in the cold expanse of space with a deafening crash of fire and metal. The battle was fierce. Every ship in the human fleet was fully engaged in the fight, launching missiles and lasers, all while trying to avoid the Council's relentless assault. The Aurora Titan's weapon systems were powerful, but the humans' advanced technology kept them one step ahead. As the Silent Fury closed in on the flagship, Draven's thoughts were focused on one thing: victory. But he wasn't prepared for the personal cost that came with it. Kale, Draven's best friend and second in command, was piloting one of the attack ships. They had fought side by side for years, and Draven trusted Kale with his life. But in the heat of battle, disaster struck. A massive explosion rocked the fleet as a Council warship fired directly at Kal's ship. The attack came out of nowhere, catching Kal off guard. The ship's shields shattered, and the craft began spiraling toward the dark abyss of space, its engines sputtering and failing. Draven's heart stopped as he watched the explosion from the viewfinder. "Kale!" He screamed into the comms, but there was no response. The tension in Draven's chest grew as he watched his best friend's ship break apart. Every part of him wanted to rush to Kal's aid, but he couldn't afford to lose focus. They were in the middle of the most important battle of their lives, and if they didn't take down the Aurora Titan, everything Kal had fought for would be in vain. The battle raged on, but Draven couldn't shake the image of Kal's ship exploding in his mind. He ordered the Silent Fury to continue the attack on the flagship. The crew, seeing the determination in their captain's eyes, followed his lead without question. But as the fight intensified, Draven's thoughts were split. He couldn't lose Kal. Not now. Not after everything they had been through together. He needed his best friend by his side, especially in this crucial moment. Just as the Aurora Titan seemed on the verge of breaking, Draven received a transmission. It was from Kal. "Captain, I'm still here." Kal's voice came through the comms, weak but unmistakably alive. "I'm not going anywhere." Draven felt a rush of relief wash over him. His best friend was alive, though badly injured. The battle wasn't over, but Kal's survival gave him the strength he needed to press on. With renewed determination, Draven led the final push. The Aurora Titan was no longer invincible. Its massive hull, scared by the human fleet's relentless assault, was beginning to crack. In one final, coordinated strike, the humans unleashed their full arsenal on the flagship. Explosions erupted along the Aurora Titan's outer edges, and with a massive shockwave, the flagship was destroyed. The human fleet had won. But the victory came with a heavy price. Kal was critically injured, his ship heavily damaged in the process. The Silent Fury's crew rushed to his aid, pulling him from the wreckage and bringing him aboard. As Kal was carried into the med bay, Draven stood at the helm of the Silent Fury, his heart heavy with the weight of the battle they had just fought. They had won this fight, but the war was far from over. The Council had just been dealt a major blow, but they wouldn't give up so easily. The ghosts of Earth were still coming, and they wouldn't stop until they had reclaimed what was theirs. The crew gathered in the command center, looking to Draven for guidance. They had achieved a great victory, but the sacrifices they had made were not lost on any of them. Draven's voice was steady, but the sorrow in his eyes was unmistakable. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We've struck a blow to the Council, but we have to keep pushing forward. We're not done yet. The battle may have been won, but the war was far from over. The humans would continue their fight, no matter the cost. Because for them, the fight wasn't just about revenge. It was about survival and the future of their people." The aftermath of the Aurora Titan's destruction left the human fleet in a state of cautious victory. While the destruction of the Council's flagship was a monumental achievement, the true test of humanity's resolve was just beginning. The Galactic Council had lost a significant battle, but they would not fall easily. Captain Leon Draven and his crew, now weary but resolute, understood that the war was far from over. They were not fighting for revenge alone. They were fighting for their future, for the freedom of every species oppressed under the Council's iron fist. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but there was a flicker of hope. The Council had sent a message with the destruction of Earth, and now the humans were sending their own message back. As the fleet retreated into the safety of the shadows, Captain Draven sat alone in the command center of the Silent Fury, his mind replaying the events that led to this point. The weight of their victories hung heavy on him. Every battle won was a step toward a greater truth, a truth that the Galactic Council desperately wanted to keep hidden. But Draven was determined to uncover it. He knew that the destruction of Earth was no ordinary act of war. It had a far darker purpose, one that had been buried beneath layers of lies for centuries. The human fleet, despite its victories, was still outnumbered and outmatched by the Council's technological might. They needed more than just weapons and tactics. They needed answers, the truth that had been hidden for too long. The Silent Fury's crew had made significant progress in decoding Council communications, and Draven was sure that the next step in their campaign would come from a confrontation with the most powerful figure in the Galactic Council, the Supreme Leader. The Supreme Leader, a being of immense power and intellect, had been at the helm of the Council's operations during the Earth's destruction. For years, Draven had been obsessed with the idea of capturing this figure, believing that the truth about the Earth's destruction was hidden within the Council's leadership. It was time to face the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. The humans had tracked the Supreme Leader's location to a heavily fortified station, deep in the heart of Council-controlled space. It was the perfect opportunity for a final confrontation. Draven and his crew, weary from the battle but filled with resolve, launched a daring raid on the station. The Silent Fury and its fleet moved stealthily, cloaking their ships as they penetrated the station's defenses. In a series of fast, coordinated attacks, they overwhelmed the Council's security forces and infiltrated the inner sanctum, where the Supreme Leader was believed to be hiding. Draven, flanked by his most trusted soldiers, stormed the command chamber. The Supreme Leader, a towering figure draped in dark robes, stood waiting for them. There was no fear in the leader's eyes, only cold calculation. As the humans entered the room, the air was thick with tension. "I've been expecting you, Captain Draven." The Supreme Leader's voice was smooth and confident, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling calm. "You think you have won, but your rebellion is nothing more than a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of the galaxy." Draven's heart raced as he stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with anger. "You destroyed Earth. You wiped out humanity. For what? For power." The Supreme Leader chuckled darkly. "You don't understand, do you? The destruction of Earth was not an act of war. It was a necessary measure to preserve the order of the galaxy." Draven's fists clenched. "Order? You killed millions of innocents to maintain your control." The Supreme Leader's expression remained unchanged. "Humanity posed a threat. Your potential was too great. If you had been allowed to grow unchecked, you would have surpassed us. The entire galaxy would have fallen under your dominance. and we could not allow that. The word struck Draven like a physical blow. He had known there was something more to Earth's destruction, but hearing it from the mouth of the Supreme Leader confirmed his darkest suspicions. The Council had feared humanity's potential so much that they had decided to eliminate them, to erase them from existence before they could ever become a true threat. It was not just a war. It was a calculated effort to suppress a species that could one day challenge the established order of the galaxy. The truth reverberated through the room, echoing in Draven's mind. This was not a battle between good and evil. It was a battle between freedom and tyranny. The Galactic Council, once seen as the ultimate authority, had become a force of oppression. They had played the role of the galaxy's protector, but in reality, they were nothing more than a self-serving empire, ruling through fear and control. The Supreme Leader seemed to sense Draven's realization. You see now, don't you? You were never meant to survive. Your technology, your ambition, it all made you a threat. The Council could not risk letting you rise again. You were wiped out to ensure that nothing could ever challenge our rule. Draven's mind raced, processing the gravity of what he had just learned. So this was never just about war. It was about control. You killed billions to keep the galaxy under your thumb. The Supreme Leader's smile widened. Exactly. And now you will join the others. Your rebellion will be crushed, and the galaxy will remain under our control. You cannot win. The message was transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. The reaction was immediate. Across countless star systems, oppressed species, long held under the Council's thumb, began to question their rulers. There was a ripple of rebellion, small at first, but it grew. The truth had been exposed, and with it, the power of the Galactic Council began to crumble. The truth about Earth's destruction was not just a tale of human suffering. It was a call to arms for all those who had been oppressed by the Council's rule. As the message spread, Draven turned his attention back to the Supreme Leader. Your reign ends here, he said, voice cold and unforgiving. The galaxy will rise against you, and humanity will be at the forefront of that revolution. The Supreme Leader's confidence wavered for the first time. You think you can defeat us? We control the galaxy. Draven's eyes narrowed. Not anymore. The final battle was not yet won, but the first step had been taken. The truth had been revealed. The Council's grip on the galaxy was weakening, and the fire of rebellion had been lit. Humanity had not only survived, they had awakened the galaxy to the truth. And with that knowledge, they would fight for their freedom, their future, and the legacy of Earth. The war had just begun. The final battle had arrived, the culmination of years of struggle, loss, and hope. Humanity's rebellion was no longer just about survival. It was about reclaiming their future, their place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity's resilience, but now, as the final confrontation loomed, they would face the full force of that underestimation. The human fleet, now bolstered by numerous alien factions that had risen up against the Council's oppression, gathered in the dark void of space. Ships of all sizes and designs, from sleek human warships to the ragtag vessels of the alien rebels, formed a formidable armada. Captain Draven stood on the bridge of the Silent Fury, the ship that had seen them through countless battles, its hull scarred from the wars they had fought. This time, it would be different. This time, victory was within reach. Draven's eyes scanned the horizon of the enemy stronghold, the capital planet of the Galactic Council, a world once teeming with life, but now marred by the cold efficiency of an empire built on control and fear. The time had come to end it. His voice was steadied as he issued the orders to launch the final assault. All ships, prepare for orbital bombardment. Let's make sure they understand the price of their tyranny, Draven commanded. The fleet began to move, its cloaked ships approaching the Council's capital. The air was thick with tension, and every crew member knew that this was the final push that would determine the future of the galaxy. As the fleet approached, the massive cannons of the Silent Fury and other human warships powered up. The orbital bombardment began. Bright flashes of light streaked across the dark sky, each explosion a reminder of the devastation humanity had endured and the wrath they were unleashing in return. The planet shook as if the very core of the Council's stronghold was being torn apart. Massive craters formed on the surface, and the once pristine cities of the Council crumbled into ruins. From space, the chaos was a spectacle of destruction. In the distance, the once great spires of the Council's capital city were now reduced to smoldering remnants. But the battle was far from over. On the ground, the rebels and the human soldiers launched their assault. The ground shook beneath their boots as they stormed through the city, facing resistance from the Council's soldiers and their deadly AI-enhanced warriors. The scene was a chaotic mix of advanced technology and raw, brutal combat. Explosions rocked the streets as gunfire and energy blasts filled the air. The human soldiers, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a ferocity born of desperation. This was not just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the very soul of the galaxy. Draven and his crew led the charge. They fought through the crumbling streets, cutting down Council soldiers and dodging blasts from AI-enhanced machines that were faster, stronger, and more deadly than any normal soldier. But the humans were not deterred. With every alien ally at their side, they pushed forward, inching closer to the heart of the Council's power. The final showdown loomed on the horizon. The Supreme Leader, the one figure responsible for the devastation of Earth and the tyranny that had gripped the galaxy for so long, awaited them. The leader had retreated to the heart of the capital, where the last remnants of the Council's power were concentrated. Draven knew this was it, the moment that would decide everything. As he neared the Supreme Leader's inner sanctum, Draven's heart pounded in his chest. This was personal. It wasn't just about the fate of the galaxy. It was about the destruction of his home, the loss of his people. The thought of Earth, so far away, still burning in his memory, fueled his rage and determination. He entered the chamber, his crew at his side. The Supreme Leader stood in the center, a calm expression on his face despite the chaos outside. His eyes glowed with a cold, calculating intelligence, and his voice was smooth as he addressed Draven. "You've come far, Captain. But this is where your journey ends," the Supreme Leader said, his tone almost taunting. Draven's grip tightened on his weapon. "No, this is where your tyranny ends." The battle that followed was like nothing they had ever faced. The Supreme Leader, though not physically imposing, was a master of combat, his every movement enhanced by technology and years of experience. He wielded a blade of pure energy, the weapon crackling with raw power. Draven's own weapon, a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien technology, clashed with the leaders in a shower of sparks. The sounds of their combat echoed through the chamber, the clash of energy and metal reverberating against the walls. Draven's strength and raw human determination were matched against the Supreme Leader's calculated, almost perfect movements. It was a battle of not just weapons but ideologies. The Supreme Leader fought to maintain the oppressive order that had ruled the galaxy, while Draven fought for freedom, for the future of humanity and all oppressed species. For every strike the Supreme Leader landed, Draven retaliated with the force of humanity's spirit. It was not just about winning. It was about showing that humanity could not be defeated, that their will to survive and thrive was stronger than any technology or empire. As the battle raged on, the chamber around them began to crumble. The destruction outside had reached its peak, and the planet was on the verge of collapse. The final fight mirrored the final moments of the galaxy itself. Draven, driven by the memory of Earth and the lives lost, made one final push. With a powerful strike, he disarmed the Supreme Leader, knocking the energy blade from his grasp. The Supreme Leader staggered back, his confidence faltering for the first time. "You think you've won," he spat, his voice filled with venom. "You are nothing but a fleeting moment in the galaxy's history. The Council will rise again." Draven stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "No, you won't." With a final decisive blow, Draven brought the fight to an end. The Supreme Leader fell, defeated. The galaxy was no longer under the control of the Galactic Council. For the first time in millennia, the people of the galaxy were free. As the Supreme Leader's lifeless body hit the floor, the entire capital shook. The final blow had been struck, not just to the leader but to the entire corrupt system that had enslaved the galaxy for so long. The people were free. The tyranny was over. The battle outside had come to an end. The Council's stronghold was destroyed, and humanity's forces emerged victorious. But the victory was not just for the humans. It was for all the oppressed species who had stood by their side. Together, they had toppled the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. Draven stood amidst the wreckage of the Supreme Leader's palace, looking out at the horizon. The sky was beginning to clear, the first rays of a new dawn breaking through the clouds. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was at peace. But there was still one more thing left to do. Draven turned to his crew. "It's time to go home," he said, his voice filled with emotion. Earth was waiting. After all this time, after everything they had fought for, humanity was finally returning to the planet that had been stolen from them. The silent fury ascended into the sky, the crew looking out at the green and blue planet below. Earth, once a symbol of loss and despair, was now a symbol of triumph. Humanity had fought for its survival, for its freedom, and now they were coming home. The final scene showed Earth's surface, untouched by the scars of war. Lush forests, oceans sparkling in the sunlight, and cities being rebuilt by the hands of humanity and their allies. The sky was clear, the air fresh, and the future bright. Humanity had triumphed. The galaxy had been freed. And Earth, the cradle of their civilization, was theirs once more. The war was over. The future had begun.